Hello and welcome in returners. This is Her Grounded Intelligence, a place for midlife plus women to slow down, come back to ourselves, and remember what it is that we already know. This is a space for women who grew up before the internet, and there are plenty of us, I promise, and are practicing how to stay human in a world that it does just keep speeding up. It doesn't seem that way. It does keep speeding up. So here we're going to slow down, return to what is essential, and remember the wisdom that lives within us. I am your host, Liz Rosado-McGrath, and each week we'll explore how to come back to ourselves so we can navigate change with clarity, steadiness, and grounded intelligence. I'm so glad that you're here with us today, and I do say us because I have a guest that I will introduce in just one second. Before we begin, though, I like to practice what we preach, and we're just going to do a real quick reset on our system by taking a deep breath in. If you listen to episode 1, you are familiar with this. We're going to take a deep breath in for about 4 seconds. We're going to hold for about 4 seconds. And then we're going to take that long exhale for about 4 seconds. So let's do that together right now. Begin. Wonderful. Our episode today focuses on the nervous system of the digital age. And just to help us set the stage for this topic, I wanted to share a quick but very relatable story or scene that I'm pretty sure many or most of us have experienced before. Have you ever had the feeling of putting down your phone after, maybe an hour or so, even less sometimes, of scrolling? Maybe you've noticed when you do that, you can feel that your heart is racing a little bit. I know you feel that your eyes might be tired from staring at the screen. You may have noticed or felt a vague sense of agitation that you maybe can't quite name. So when was the last time you noticed what your body was doing when you were online? And for our purposes today, online is either on the phone, on a computer, on an iPad, any rectangular type of device. And let's just keep that scenario in mind throughout our talking time today. We talk a lot about digital detoxes for our minds, but today we're going to go even a little bit deeper than that. We're going to go into what tech overstimulation actually does or how it impacts the body and how grounding practices can help us rewire those patterns. I am very excited and grateful to welcome a special guest to you all today, Wendy Falcon from wendyfalcon.com. I'm going to say a little bit about her and then she's going to go into more depth. She has a background in both finance and real estate, and then also began practicing yoga at a very deep level. She is also an author and a coach, lots of life experience and specialized experience we need for this conversation today. That is quite the backdrop to our topic today. Welcome to Her Grounded Intelligence, Wendy, and thank you so much for being here. Please share a little bit more about yourself and why the topic of our nervous system today is in fact an important one for us to understand at a deeper level.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here and happy to share on the exact topics you're talking about from my perspective with the yoga practice background that I have. Well, I used to work on Wall Street, as you mentioned, and I used to be in real estate. So I went from Wall Street to real estate. I was a stockbroker on Wall Street. I was an investor in real estate and a real estate broker as well. What I really realized was how those two industries set me up to do what I do now, which is yoga, breathwork, meditation, and dare I call it somatic coaching. I really think that that's an appropriate term for it, the type of coaching that I offer. When I was on Wall Street, there is a tremendous amount of energy that is on Wall Street. You could see it in the people You could see it in the companies. You could see it on the phone calls. It is very, very present.
Yes.
And what I learned on Wall Street, one, is that whatever you want in life, you really have to ask for. That's the biggest lesson. And if you ask, that sets the tone to having it, or opening to it, or discovering it. The other aspect of Wall Street that I learned is about currency. Currency on Wall Street is money. Currency in our bodies is energy. And in order to move a tremendous amount of energy, you have to be an institution that could handle that much currency. So a $100 million client coming in to a company, that company really needs to have an infrastructure that could handle that big of a client. Our bodies are not dissimilar. To handle the type of energy that life throws at us, or that we're encountering, the levels of intensity, quality, quantity, all of that, we need to have a structure, a building, if you would, in place that will allow us to really process that energy well, whether it's tension energy or higher energy. So Wall Street really set me up for my later in life meditation journey and commitment and practice. When I transitioned into real estate is tangible assets. It's your home. It's the land. Real estate is one of my favorite investments in the world, if not the favorite investment I have, externally, of course. And in real estate, what I really learned is that the way you care for a home, or what to look for before you buy a home, or how you maintain your home, really holds its investment, but also holds the quality of living and enjoyment of life that you have. So with real estate, I saw the direct connection between my yoga practice, because in our practice, we work with the body as the house. And this is the house we have to live in. This is not a house we can sell. This is not a house we could trade up. So if we are not in a house that we feel great about living in, if we don't know how to open our windows and clean out the basement and all that kind of thing, it's really challenging to live in a house. And you can't meditate in a house on fire. And you certainly can't live enjoyable in a house where the basement's flooding and the attic's all bolted up. And so those professions really set me up for what I'm doing now. And ultimately, going from helping people with their larger investments to helping them with their single largest investment in this way is what I do now. And how it relates back to tech is, well, it's in many ways. And I think we're going to open that up and explore that through the questions we answer. And it'll be more clear on how that relates.
Beautiful. Wow. I love that analogy. I mean, understanding infrastructure from a currency perspective where energy is palpable, like you mentioned in New York City, and then looking at our bodies as the home where all that, is sustained, hopefully. And how do we clear that out? That sets up our conversation here perfectly. Thank you for that. And yes, doing some research on this topic before we got together today, there were some wonderings and some things I thought you would be perfect to share your expertise with us, the listeners, on. And the first one that I'd like to start off with is, how does chronic screen time, because it feels like you can't get away from that, no matter what field you're in, no matter what you do at work, at home, or whatever, how does chronic screen time and digital overstimulation tend to show up in the body, manifest in the body? How does that work?
I think that's a great question, because I don't think it's a question a lot of people are asking. So I think asking and answering that is a service to people. There's a saying that says, the dose makes the medicine or the poison.
Ooh, love that. Yep, very good.
And when you ask, how does chronic screen time, digital overstimulation? Chronic means persistent, for a long time. And in medical terms, it really means illness or disease. So it's very easy to recognize how illness or dis-ease shows up in the body from that chronic usage. We could look at fatigue, stiffness, irritability, pain, depression, difficulty sleeping, difficulty focusing, an inability to relax genuinely, shallow breathing, mechanical thinking, mechanical behavior, anxiety, and the list goes on. So you know how you feel after you get a massage. You know how you feel after you hug someone you love.
Yes.
You know how you feel after you take a warm bath. You know how you feel after you go for a class or a run. And you know how you feel if you scroll social media for an hour when you meant to go on for a minute. You know how you feel if you have a screen time showing 20 hours, 50 hours this week. You know how you feel when you experience doing those things. So if someone's paying attention to how your body is responding to the stimulus that you're feeding it, it will be very clear how digital overstimulation shows up, not just in the way that I'm describing it, that I can witness as students come in or as I experience my own life, but how it shows up in your body directly. And that's the important thing to be able to recognize.
I love that. A couple things tethered to that before we start talking about grounding practices to help, release some of that. I keep reading about cortisol or adrenaline stress and rush. And I think that's another thing people may not notice is happening when they're scrolling or they've had extended time on digital media. Anything you want to comment on related to that before we talk about practices?
I think the comment is that they're not noticing.
Yeah.
I think the challenge is, and I see people challenged to sit in meditation, and I think the challenge is that when we get real still, then we can actually notice what's happening in our body. But immediately the mind and the emotions put a label of, I shouldn't have this pain, or what is this sensation? And so there's a kind of a excitable desire to not have to experience that or not feel that.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a definite resistance to actually feeling in the body. And for a lot of people, that's fair and understanding, because if we're not feeling our body for a long time and then we're not doing things in life based on the messages we're getting, then we sit down, we kind of have to sit with our choices and really feel that we've been less than caring and kind to ourselves. And that's a lot for someone to take in. But yes, I do think that these things are happening. We could say they're happening under the surface, but they're really happening very strongly for most people, but there's not an attention to that. Maybe there's not an understanding of how or why I would put my attention on that. Or the biggest thing is, I'm not putting my attention on it because I don't believe I can actually do something about that or change that. And so it just scares me to feel that. Instead of coming from an empowered place, because I understand that if I relate with it, I can relate with it in a way that actually really dissipates that frantic, frenetic, anxiety, neurotic kind of energy.
Yeah, I love that. Recognizing it, awareness, definitely a part of that. Pushing it away because you feel like you don't know what it is or how to attend to that. Let's turn to that because we know what that anxiety can feel like. What is the relationship kind of between grounding practices in yoga or somatic therapy, as you alluded to earlier, and helping us to regulate the nervous systems? Let's just start with the fight or flight response. Maybe it's not that deep for some because it's just anxiety, but how do grounding practices help us regulate all of that?
Yeah, I think, Liz, you're starting to get the picture that I really love metaphors, so I'm going to continue on.
I like it. It's a great learning tool.
I'm going to continue there.
Good.
Grounding, when we're talking about that in electricity, refers to creating a direct, low-resistance physical connection between an electrical circuit or an appliance and the earth. It's really a safety feature that provides a safe path for excess electricity, like surges, to dissipate into the ground, preventing electrical shocks or fires or equipment damage. From our yoga practice perspective and our body being our home, our nervous system is our electrical circuitry of our house. So when we're practicing grounded poses, those inner surges and charges that come up that make us want to fight or flight or jump out of our skin in meditation dissipate instead of continuing to run that circuit, blow fuses, short circuit our whole nervous system, and keep us in that frenetic state of this energy is not getting processed. So when we're grounded, we actually feel safe. And when we feel safe, we actually naturally let go. And when we let go, we naturally feel calm and relaxed and more of our natural self. So grounding practices in yoga and regulating the nervous system are very directly related.
I love that. The word that came to my mind when you were describing all of that was disrupt. It's like how to disrupt the loop we might be in. Does that make sense there, or am I off on that?
Well, I like the word disrupt, but I would say redirect.
Okay.
Because there's not a problem, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
There's either a break in the circuitry or there's an excess amount of energy in the circuitry. But to take that grounding wire and send it to the ground, like in a regular house, you're redirecting it. You're reorienting. You're then determining where is that energy going? How can I redirect and use this energy? I think, practices like, and these are not my practices, but like Tai Chi and Qigong, they're really about redirecting energy. Even Kung Fu, you're taking this intense energy that might be coming in and at you, and you actually have a skill set to redirect it. So in the grounding, we're sending it to where it can be useful and be repurposed. And even in some of like meditation practices and the yoga practices that I offer, not all meditation is the same, not all yoga is the same. Yoga is a technology, and so just like tech, we have very different technologies in different yogas and meditations. They're not all the same. However, in the grounding practices, actually we're plugging people in to the floor. So it's like that appliance you have in your house, that gorgeous Williams-Sonoma KitchenAid, whatever it is, it's useless unless you actually plug it in. So there's a plugging in, and then that plug-in has a grounding wire, and then you are whipping up the best recipes for your friends and family, like enjoying your kitchen, your house, your home, and your company.
Boy, that makes a lot of sense. I got a lot of clarity with that. That example of a grounding wire makes perfect sense. And what we also know about energy is it can't be destroyed. I think it can only be redirected. So that makes perfect sense with all this. I find that empowering, actually. We talked about some people trying to run away from this anxiety. And really what we're trying to help ourselves learn, if you will, is how to repurpose it, how to redirect it rather than turn against ourselves. Does that fit?
Yes, it fits. And so there's repurposing the energy in one sense, but there really is transforming of energy. So you said doesn't get destroyed, but it does transform. When you burn something in a fire, it really transforms. And I would probably equate some of the practices I work with as kind of taking all that tension, old stuff, and burning it and transforming it in a way that it gets used for in a different way. So you're breaking down tensions, you're breaking down frenetic stress, you're breaking down anxiety, and you're really working with your body as the beautiful transformational agent that it is. Our bodies take food and turn it into hair, skin, nails. Our bodies take a seed and an egg and turn it into a whole nother life. I mean, we are very powerful.
Yes.
These systems that work at that level of transformation for a lot of people are atrophied muscular systems, and not the muscles of the body per se, but maybe the muscles of the chakra systems and the psychic system. So when we start to develop our inner system, we can have the transformation on greater levels, but that takes interest, intrigue first maybe, and then interest, and then commitment and a choice to invest in oneself in that way.
I love that. Beautiful. I mean, I think what I'm hearing is it's doable, right? It's not outside of the realm of possibility. I can do that. So if someone were to ask, let's say I'm someone who's constantly plugged in and feeling disconnected from my body or unaware, what is one accessible practice that I might be able to start with today? Like at the conclusion of our time talking today, what is something someone could actually try or do to help alleviate some of the things we've talked about?
I think the very first step is to simply recognize that something's taking place, and without needing to change it, and without needing to run away from it.
Beautiful.
That's one. So there's a recognition like, something's up. I'm experiencing this sensation. And the breath is probably the simplest way to enter into this space feeling the most safe, because if a person notices something's up, they'll probably notice there's contraction and there's restriction of breath, contraction of muscles, shortness of breath, the belly's not really moving. So taking a deep breath or 3 deep breaths where your body's actually moving, it's not just in your head that you're taking a breath, but your belly expands, your chest expands. And you can feel yourself sitting in your seat. You could feel your feet on the floor. Your attention becomes in the body, and your breath becomes your main focal point of just helping you stay in the body without running away. And then, one step further could be a box breath. So it's the count of any amount of count, but you're making it even. So it could be the count of 3 on the inhale, or 4 or 5, right? And then hold for that same 3 or 4 or 5. Then exhale for the 3 or the 4 or the 5, and then hold out for the 3 or the 4 or the 5. And maybe 4, you can go with 4. 4 on the inhale, 4 on the hold, 4 on the exhale, 4 on the hold, and do it 4 times. I'm just trying to keep it so memorable.
Yeah,
It's all 4.
Great, very helpful. I think that's very helpful. I guess the last thing that I would ask, you personally, you've been giving us great information, great metaphors. I love that. Super helpful to anyone listening today. Is there anything that you personally do to create boundaries between technology and your own embodiment practices that we haven't already addressed here?
Definitely. I would say keeping it simple. There's another quote that I've heard that I really love is, do today what feels good tomorrow.
Wow.
So I consider what my actions are right now and how that will affect me later. There's morning Wendy. I want morning Wendy to care about night Wendy, and night Wendy to care about morning Wendy.
Love that.
You know what I mean? That was from Seinfeld. I can't claim that
That's
was
perfect.
Seinfeld. Yeah. And in our practice, okay, the understanding is that anything we wish to achieve must be done through the body.
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah. Anything we wish to achieve must be done through the body. You're baking a cake, you're having a baby, you're going to work, you're communicating with a friend. It's not in the mental center of theory, and it actually has to be done through the body. So consistent meditation and yoga practices. But when I say yoga, there's 4 pieces to that. There's meditation, there's breath work, there's yoga, and then there's asana, which is the poses, and then there's jnana yoga, which is, in a sense, a clarity of mind, a piercing through of the illusion, if you will. So I have a yoga practice, and then when I am working with tech, I have an intent and a measure, so that the dose makes the medicine. So what I'm doing with that tech, right now I'm on tech with you on a podcast.
Yep.
I don't go on Facebook at all. But when I do use tech, this is purposeful. It's for me, but not just for me. It's for others and you and whoever's listening. And so there's an energy gain in this. But that's because it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's a measure, and I understand that it's a dose for the medicine, and I'm not dosing to poison myself.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. I love the idea of, is my technology use purposeful? That's very different than finding yourself scrolling after 45 minutes or 60 minutes, because it does suck you in if you're not paying attention or noticing, like you said earlier.
And I would add that the attention, the being able to pay attention, and I like the word pay attention, because we do pay for whatever our attention is on. And so to have one's attention, one's focus, I want to say that the technology mirrors the mental center, and it stimulates the mental center. But the body and the breath are different centers. So when so much overuse is on tech, which is just basically a mirror of that mental center. It's really overstimulating this one area of us. So without bringing that balance of the breath and the body, and even the healthy emotional center, that's how come it gets just out of whack so easily. Mm-hmm. So that is one of the things I think it's important to kind of just be aware of.
That's very important. I love that. All right, what I'm going to try and do is summarize my learning here today. So I'm going to check for understanding and see if I have this right. And if I don't, please fine tune this for me. I think what I'm feeling is that our body has Wi-Fi too. And the Wi-Fi our body has is awareness. The signal is always there, and overstimulation of that signal can create interference. Grounding clears this channel so you can hear what your body has been and is trying to tell you. How'd I do?
Oh, you did great. And what I really love about it is that what you heard is specific in a way, but yet someone else listening will hear slightly different things. And what's really great about that is that it's not that's all there is, or that's wrong or right. It's that is what you needed to hear to be most supportive, and someone else will have picked up on clues of other things. I do like the term the body has Wi-Fi. That signal, that connection to intelligence, it's like saying we have love, but really we are love.
That's right.
The body has Wi-Fi, but really we are the Wi-Fi. That's like who we really are. That signal, I don't think the signal gets overstimulated. I think that people are not tuned into that signal, and they're dialed to a different dial, and that other dial has a lot more noise and commercials and advertisements. If we're dialed into that signal inside that is of a deeper nature, and thus this is where the practice in learning how to dial into that dial, then all of the other things taking place can become just supportive energy rather than a distraction, or they can be there, but it doesn't derail someone's focus or ability to come from that deeper place rather than working off tension energy. So people come in and they're working with tension energy, like you can feel the tension, you can hear the tension, you could experience it. So to come from that place of resourcefulness and not tension energy, that's kind of the work of being that directly connected to that portal, that signal, that inner space.
I love that. And I love what you started off with too, saying other people are going to have different takeaways. That's what makes us unique. And that's really the beauty of all of this. Beautifully said. Wendy, if people have other questions or want to reach you for, more information, what is the best way for them to be able to connect with you?
Well, they could just email me at info@wendyfalcon.com. I do have a website. Most of my people that come to me are mostly grassroots, word of mouth. I don't use the social media so much. Maybe I'll change that, but right now. So you can go to my website, wendyfalcon.com, but really just email me at info@wendyfalcon.com. I'm really accessible. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm here for whoever's really needing or wanting something.
Beautiful. And those of you that are listening, there is a comment section underneath the link that you'll find. If you have anything you want to leave in the comments, we would love to hear your thoughts after this episode today. Very critical for each of us. Thank you, Wendy, for being here. Thanks for sharing your expertise. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Next week, we will be talking about AI and the feminine intuitive mind. A little bit more specifically, we will be addressing the main question of, can intuition coexist with algorithms? I know you don't want to miss that one, so go ahead and hit the follow button. Remember to take one deep breath before you tap away. Just that little pause, that intentionality. Maybe ask yourself, what is the purpose of my technology use? Wendy and I both promise your body will thank you for that. Thanks for spending time with us. If something in this episode resonated, take a moment to reflect on what it's asking you to notice or remember. Until next time, returners, keep coming home to yourselves. We'll see you next time.